playing that way, and it was more fun, and I think it gets them to play better. It's a good way for especially young kids to play.
Well, and I'm not knocking your kids that you had at North Penn at all, but you were in a talent deficient situation there.
Right.
You know, where like
and
Coach
numbers,
was saying,
I mean,
yeah, and you didn't have numbers. And so I know coaches, you know, when he was at Holcomb, you know, he had a young bunch that, you know, they weren't all varsity age kids yet. And so like he's saying, going from that type of situation to where he had an older veteran group of guys who were ready to win, they just needed, you know, the right coach and the right voice in the room to say, hey, here's what we're going to go do. You know, I think it's fascinating to look at the system and what people think about it, like their perception. I remember, you know, different people here, even at Delta, before the season ever started going, man, are we really going to play like this? Is he really going to, you know, have him do this? And then, like Chris and I said 100 times, it was like the perception was going to be we're going to shoot nothing but threes. We're just going to run up and down the floor and shoot threes. But it's funny. I mean, we made 300 threes, I think, this season. Our boys did. But we shot 70% of our shots are layups because the tempo that we created and the defense and the tips and steals and deflections was a lot of layups. And so
I think too, a good one real quick to look at of playing that way is somebody we've had on the show before, Darren Manders, and what he did out at Walnut Grove. I mean, they almost shot a three or a layup every time.
Yep.
They pressed, they got steals, they got the ball back. Or if you scored on them, they just went and they got it and shot it real quick. And it was very successful for them, and they had a lot of guys that could play that way. And then, you know, like you're saying, with people saying, are we going to really play this way? Is this really what we're going to do? Well, if you go the opposite of it, people are still going to question that too.
That's right.
No matter what you're doing, if you slowed it down, they're going to say you should speed it up and play like this. But if you speed it up and shoot too much, they're going to say you should slow it down and work for a better shot.
Yeah, there's always somebody at the top row thinking you should coach different. That doesn't change no matter what you're doing. Coach, what do you think if you were going to give advice to somebody who is going to try to do something like this? You know, maybe somebody out there that because you know what they're doing is not working, they're in year 2, year 3, and they're kind of stagnant, want to try something new, or maybe they are looking at their group like you looked at your group saying, hey, we can play this way. You know, we've got a good guard, a good shooter, whatever. I know what my advice would be because it's something that I saw you do. What's the one thing you would tell people, you know, just far as day-to-day, what you do in practice that would help implement that style?
What would you do just on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't know if I can think of just one thing.
Is there a certain drill or is there a certain, you know, just something to your daily routine that you think makes this successful?
I mean, obviously you got to shoot a lot, but I think the biggest thing, especially leading up to the season, is when you have open gyms. I would, you know, whenever you're scrimmaging and all that stuff, I would just put a 12-second shot clock up there and count down every single time because that have kids kind of playing faster, you know, and used to running up and down and playing a little bit harder. And I'd go short games. As far as outside of practice, I would just make sure that you have administration that's on board with what you're doing.
That's a good one right there. And so that's one thing that I saw you do that I was really impressed with is just the amount of shots that your guys get up outside of practice. You know, just every morning I'm out making my rounds and seeing, you know, is everybody where they're supposed to be and all that kind of stuff just as an administrator. And I always make a loop through the gym, and you're usually sitting in there. The guys are in there shooting. A lot of the girls are in there shooting. And just your guys put up a ton of shots. And if you look at a guy on our team, well, 2 guys come to mind, Grant Coomer, John Bond. You know, Grant's always been an okay shooter. I thought he went up a level this year. And John Bond went from being kind of like that power forward, undersized, you know, just hustle player, you know, to where John could make an outside shot too, you know. And I think that's because of the work that they put in. You know, I know a lot of mornings I get there before everybody, and John will be in there shooting already. You know, I get in there in the gym, and I'm like, John, did you break in the back door? How'd you get in here? You know, but
he always managed to get his way in there, though.
Yes, he did. He did, and so but those guys put up a ton of shots outside of practice. So what do you say to those guys? I know you have numbers like that, you want them to get up so many a day or whatever, but what kind of things are you talking to with a guy like John Bond when he's doing that? Are you talking to those kids who, saying, hey, here's your role and this is what I see you doing, or you need to be working on this because we're going to try to use you this way? Is that something you're saying to him, or is that just something he did on his own?
I think the only thing I really say to the kids, and maybe this is wrong, maybe this is right, I don't know, but whenever they're playing, kids are taught, like, you have to get like a certain shot. But with us, if you're open, I want you to shoot it no matter what, because I feel like if you got kids that rebound hard, you're going to get offensive rebounds. If you take that open shot, like, what's better than an open three-point shot? Whenever you're coming down, a lot of teams will pass it and get it, and then they'll pass it again and just end up getting that same shot, a minute later. But you just tell the kids when you're open, you can shoot it. I believe in you. But obviously you don't want them, doing the Kyrie Irving dribbles and then fadeaway threes, but just spotting up and hitting it and just giving kids confidence. I think that's the main thing.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. And so last question here, and then Toby, you can jump in and ask him one here if you want. But for me, I think the question, and you and I have talked about this a little bit. So how do you do this going forward? Because and I don't just mean this 1 year, because you're losing an all-state point guard. You're losing, a guy like Isaiah Thomas, who's one of the big scorers that's come through here. You're losing John and Grant. You're losing B-Man. You're losing a good senior group, but you're losing a lot of guards. You've got a kind of a post-heavy team coming back. You're still going to have some good guards. I think you're actually going to be deeper next year, maybe a little deeper, a little more athletic, top to bottom next year. And you're definitely going to be bigger. So do you tweak the system? Do you still try to run the same system with the same kids, just plug guys in different holes? Or do you tweak it to fit the group that you've got coming back? I always find that fascinating in a small school, especially where your talent is going to kind of ebb and flow. How do you run a system, year to year with different kids? What's your philosophy?
It would be nice to, just run the same stuff. That way you're not changing a whole lot from year to year. But, kind of the advice that you gave me, and I'll give you a quick plug on that, you do kind of have to make small adjustments to base it on your personnel. So, if we're bigger, maybe you can't get up and deny the ball as much in the press. You maybe have to play a tad bit softer. Or you might have to run a little bit of a different offense. But I want to keep the same concepts of just making the game as fast as possible and trying to take the opposing coach out of the game, but just making minor tweaks, I guess, in how we run some of our things. But there's still a lot of time between, now and then. You never know, somebody could develop into a really good point guard, to where they could do maybe half the things that Eric could.
Yeah, me and Aaron Bidwell were talking about this one time, and I told him, the way I explained it to him is, if you think about going from 0 to 100, 100 being as fast as you can go, every year I start out trying to go 100. And what I do is I throttle down depending on my group of kids, because if you do it the other way around, you say, well, I don't think we're going to be as fast next year. I don't think we're going to be as good. Then you may be shortchanging your kids. Yeah. Maybe they would develop into what you think they could be if you just give them a chance to. But, if there's always a way to press, I guess is my point. There's always a way to run, but you might have to press with this group a little bit different. Your pickup point might have to be a little bit different, just from year to year. But there's still a way to create pressure, to create turnovers, to create fatigue, and I think that's going to be the challenge, not just for you, but for all coaches as you change kids from year to year.
Yeah.
But I think especially with your system where you average 95 points a game, you led the United States of America in scoring, which is awesome. And so now you're going to go into the next year and you're going to, just to see the way that evolves with this next group of kids, I think you're actually going to be a better running team. It's just going to be a different way to run,
Yeah, yeah.
Tobe?
Well, you actually kind of stole my question there, because I was thinking the same thing, losing good seniors like that. How do you come back the next year? And I think Coach Hahn's answer, he said two things I liked. Keeping the same concept, so not changing who you are, and then just tweaking it to best fit your team. I think that's what you got to do. I think every coach, to be successful, you need to have a concept of how you want to play, and you got to know that year to year you're going to tweak that a little bit based on your personnel and who you have. So, you just hope you don't have to tweak too much, and like you said, maybe somebody develops into a good point guard or another shooter between now and then. And if you play like this every day, the chances of that happening are pretty good.
Yeah, my good friend Chris Ledge down at Skeeter Kell, he likes to say you got to know where you hang your hat. And I think that's a good way to think about coaching is, if I went to watch Lennis McFerrin's team play, I can tell you right now they're going to play awesome man-to-man defense. If I go to watch Greg Hollifield's team play, I know they're going to 2-2-1 press back. You know what those good teams are going to do year to year to year. And Chris and I talk about this all the time. I don't think you have to change things, but I think you can tweak things. Yeah. And just a small adjustment, a small tweak, you can basically be doing the same thing, but just fit it to the group of kids you've got. And so that's good stuff. And, hopefully other coaches out there, listen to this. Since we are the number one podcast in the state of Missouri for high school basketball, and they check us out.
Might as well listen.
That's right. While everybody's riding out the Rona here, we'll
and hopefully we get in the gym this summer and develop some shooters and point guards.
Yeah, I mean, we hope so, because right now coronavirus has got us pushed back in the backcourt. We're on an 8 count. We're just trying to get across the half-court line right now. And, that's my analogy for the coronavirus today.
Yeah, we're struggling. We're struggling against pressure.
We are struggling right now. So, Coach, thank you for taking the time here, and enjoy your downtime as we're all hoping to get back in the gym sometime soon.
Oh, definitely. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, we'll see you guys. Thank you.
See you.